Hi, welcome to Digging for Truth. I'm your host, Henry Smith. You're in for a real treat today because archaeologist Gary Byers is joining us to talk about Egyptian tombs and their relationship to the Bible. Gary, welcome back to Digging for Truth.
Hello, my friend. Good to be back with you.
All right, now when we were dialoguing a while ago to talk about, well, what do we want to talk about? What kind of show do we want to put together? You brought up tombs. That sounds kind of grim, but actually it's not grim at all. Let's kick it off with talking about Egyptian tombs, Gary.
They are spectacular. The tombs from the ancient world in Egypt for wealthy people were really decorated. They were decorated because of what what the people did in their lives, and it was a celebration of that. And then there may have been something to do with how they were going to live in the afterlife. But it seems to be more of a celebration of who I am, who I've been, and maybe that hooks me up better for the afterlife. Not sure all those details.
Now you mentioned the afterlife. Let's just talk about that for a quick moment. When you say that, what are you referring to?
Well, of course, the Egyptians, the Egyptian people spent their lives making sure a pharaoh had a great pyramid for a great death, for a great entrance into the afterlife. And if the old guy, the big guy, was hooked up, then there was a good chance that he could hook us up too. It was that kind of a deal. You know, you're trusting your best works, you're trusting the best people you know, instead of the God of the Bible, like we've learned to do.
Yeah. Idols, but really they took seriously the concept of the afterlife, very seriously. And as much as we live in a secular culture, we still see so many echoes of people that really believe in the afterlife. They could, of course, construct their own theology for that, but that's nonetheless the case. Okay, but I don't want to digress because we want to get into, tell us this first tomb that you would like to talk about. Let's just sort of like give an intro to that and work our way into it, if you would, sir.
Sure. So the guy's name was Khnumhotep, and I'll show you his hieroglyphics in a little bit. And his name, he's named after a god, a very early Egyptian god, Khnum, who was ram-headed, or was often seen as a four-legged ram with horizontal twisted horns. He was a creator god, and he was the protector of the Nile. And so he's named Khnumhotep, which means Khnum is content.
Okay.
And I guess if Khnum's content, we can be too.
Yeah, so I guess the idea is to sort of convey this contentedness upon the people. All right, so what time period are we talking about? And you know, the era. Let's talk about what kingdom, centuries, and all that kind of thing.
Middle Kingdom of Egypt, about 1900, a little before and a little after 1900 BC. And you know, we put Jacob around that time. Jacob's trip to Egypt would be in that general time frame.
Okay, so we're talking about 19th century. That's quite a long time ago. We're talking almost 4,000 years.
Yes.
Yes. And we would put, based on the dating of the internal chronology of the Bible, Jacob's entry into Egypt, the whole story behind Joseph, behind all that, of course. So let's talk about what are some of the things that have been found in this that tomb you're describing.
Well, can I take you there?
You sure can. Go for it.
I got some pics. All right. So we'll start with this map, and we're going to go to Beni Hassan. That's the red arrow on the map. And farther north, I've marked Cairo, and then farther south, I've marked Thebes. Thebes was the main capital during this time period, but we're going to be at Beni Hassan's, at the site of Beni Hassan, Khnumhotep's tomb there, and I had the privilege of visiting there with Bryant Wood and Mike Ludini, ABR folks, back in the early 2000s. And so here's a look of the site. Now you can see up in the cliffs. These are the cliffs on the east side of the Nile River. That's the Nile River in the foreground, and that's a cemetery. There's a total of 39 tombs up there. One of them is Khnumhotep's. You see four. You see those massive, impressive entryways. the one to the left by itself is tomb 2, and then tomb 3 is the first of the 3 from the left, and that's where we're going. The road sort of leads right up to his place, and that was his tomb. He was the mayor of Minet Khufu, a pretty important city. Of course, he's a big shot, and he's living there, but we don't know where that city is. It's nowhere to be found right there, and to this day, we don't know where it's located. There are small Beni Hassan Bedouin tribes living around there, but no main city. So that's a little bit of a mystery, but 39 of those guys were buried up there, many of them of the same family, but this is where they were living. So let me just go right up to that tomb then. And so here's a pic of the tomb itself. Now you saw the mountain that it was carved right out of the side of the mountain. You can see this is a forecourt that's all carved. It's a flat, smooth forecourt, sort of a rectangular space. It's just carved right out of the mountain. Those 2 pillars at the entrance, there's a pillared portico, 2 pillars there, and then a little roof before you go into the doorway. All of that carved out of the mountain. Those pillars, weren't brought in and stuck up there. They just carved the mountain away and left the pillars, and they're actually very, very, very ornate. It's an amazing entrance to this tomb. But the best part is not the entrance; it's what's inside. And so, take a look with me here at the interior. On the little plan. Now, this plan comes from Percy Newberry. He's the guy that first excavated the tomb, and it's not a great looking plan, but this was his original. And the B and C are the 2 pillars, and the A is the entrance. And then you can see to the left where it's carved off from the side of the mountain. So everything here is carved out of the stone mountain. There's nothing brought in. It's just the mountain, and it's amazing. So you go inside that entrance, and you see 4 pillars. And the pillars weren't, again, brought in. They simply carved the room away and left the pillars. Again, they're vertically fluted. They're really attractive looking. Not painted on, just really nice decoration. And so we've got this big room, and then at the eastern end, the far end, there is a shrine, and in the shrine there was a statue, a seated statue of Khnumhotep facing the entrance. And then on the south side, which is on the bottom, on the south side there were 2 tomb pits, and down in there is where his body would have been laid. There was 2 of them. We don't know why. Maybe one was a false one. Get you to look into that one and leave the good one alone. We don't know. But there were 2 of those. Nothing left in there. So his sarcophagus was taken. His body was taken. All the grave goods were taken. We don't know anything else. It's just a really cool place. And we're going to look at the north wall, which is on the top of that plan, and that's labeled M. And every wall, every bit of space was decorated. They plastered the wall, white plaster, and then painted on it.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to explore that in our next segment. We're going to a break right now. Friends, please don't go away. We'll be right back.
In a culture of intense Bible-denying skepticism, Associates for Biblical Research exists to strengthen followers of Jesus by affirming the authority of the Bible. Our archaeological fieldwork and original research form a strong foundation in upholding the reliability of the Scriptures. For students or anyone asking if they can really trust the Bible, please visit our website and partner with us by joining our prayer team or financially supporting this ministry. And thank you for standing with us.
Hi, welcome back to Digging for Truth. I'm here with archaeologist Gary Byers. We're talking about the fascinating topic of Egyptian tombs. Now, Gary, back in our first segment, there was a couple questions I had for you I wanted to follow up. The first one was on the map that you showed. For people who are brand new to archaeology and geography of Egypt, the lower is at the top, Egypt, and the upper was at the bottom. Tell folks the reason for that. Egypt 101, as it were.
Yes, that's right. And I should have done that when we did the map. So, Henry, you know that all rivers always flow from where to where?
Well, I'm being quizzed on my own show. This is great. They from the mountain downwards,
That's
of course, right?
So
Yes.
we always think, in America we got the Mississippi flowing south, and we tend to think of
Yes.
all rivers flowing south, but all they do is flow from the mountains to the sea.
Yes.
And so the sea is clearly the Med, and that's up north, and the mountains are down south, Nubia and Ethiopia, and so it's the river is flowing from north to south. So Upper Egypt is where the mountains are, and that's down south, and Lower Egypt is where the sea is, and that's up north. And even though I know it, sometimes I'll use the wrong term, or I have to stop and think to
Yes.
get that straight.
Yeah, it's very counterintuitive. Now,
It really is.
the second question I wanted to ask was the apologist in me had alarm bells ringing when you mentioned in the tomb writing that there's a city that this guy was from that hasn't been discovered. Now, the first thing I thought of was, well, the typical response to that as it relates to the Bible was, well, the Bible's wrong. There's no such place as a city. Comment on that a little bit. It's an interesting double standard that floats out there.
Oh, it really is. And of course, when we were excavating the city of Ai, Khirbet el Makaders, where we dug Bryant Wood and Scott Stripling and I, we all dug there. And when we were excavating there, there's only one historical reference, one source to reference it. It's the Bible. And so when we talk about it to people, it's the only source we've got. And they didn't want to believe there was a city. Well, actually, they would believe there was a city, but they didn't think the way the Bible described it was right. It's just really weird. If the Bible says it, we can find it. If it's still there, if there's anything to find.
Yes.
So it's the darndest thing. Any other source, nobody questions that this city existed because it was on this guy's tomb.
Yes.
But it's in the Bible. We got doubts.
Yeah. So we see their methodological and sort of, logical contradictions there. So, okay. So let's go back to the tomb now, Gary. Let's pick up from before. We were sort of laying out the basics of the tomb. The sarcophagus is gone. It's been robbed out. Everything's out of it. But really these beautiful murals that tell us quite a bit. Let's start exploring that together.
And here we go. So we're on the north wall. So here's a pic. And on the top, you actually see the painting. It's white plaster that was put on the wall, and they plastered well. Here we are 4,000 years later, and they not only plastered well, but they painted well. And so this is the scene. So up top is the actual scene as it's photographed in recent modern days, 20th century. And then on the bottom is a drawing of that very scene. It's a lot easier to see sometimes. So we've got the tomb owner, Khnumhotep, on the top left there. He's the archer in a hunting deal. He's out there hunting in his region, and apparently he liked to do that. And of course, he had a lot of people with him to help him out. And he even has his trusty dog there in front of him. And then, so that's the hunting scene. And then to the right hand side is him doing his administrative business. And you can actually see he's got 3 dogs around him in that scene. And we're going to focus on the people that are walking towards him in his administrative role. And there's actually one of his Egyptians holding a piece of paper right out in front of his face. That's the place we're going to look. That's where we're going to see the people that we've come to this tomb to see.
Excellent.
So the next pic, actually, it's a close-up then of just those people. You see the Egyptian with the paper out, pointing it in Khnumhotep's face. Of course, that's not what he's doing. He's respectfully presenting to the great guy, and so up top is actually the drawing. The painting as it was photographed in the 20th century. You'll notice one guy seems to have a halo around him. We don't know. He's called affectionately the gazelle tamer because he's holding on to a gazelle there, and we don't know why apparently somebody in the early 20th century cleaned around him. Now he's not even the leader. I don't know why they did, but apparently somebody cleaned around him, so he's got a little halo around him. The others, it would be nice if they were all cleaned up too, but you don't like to mess with these picks. So you kind of go with what you've got. So down below is the drawing. Now, this drawing was done when Percy Newberry excavated the tomb. And in fact, one of the excavators, more of an artist in those days with him, was a guy named Howard Carter. You ever heard that name?
Certainly have. I've heard that name, yes.
100 years ago this year, he discovered King Tut's tomb.
King Tut, yeah. I remember the song when I was a kid.
Very good, very good. So Howard Carter may have done this drawing. We don't know, this painting. But this is the scene. There are 15 people, 12 adults, and 3 kids, and 4 women, and there's 8 men. And so they're all moving towards Khnumhotep, and the scene is an amazing scene on a whole bunch of levels. Let's just break it down for a minute. And this is really where we're going to spend the rest of our time today. So it's 12 adults, 4 women, 8 men. We've got 2 men in the back. We consider them a rear guard. One of them has weapons. The other is actually playing a lyre. So this procession, the scene is they've got music. So I don't know if this was as they approached the Khnumhotep, the Egyptian official, or whether that's just how they traveled all the time. We don't know. Then there's a donkey. Go ahead. Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, Gary. We do need to go to a break here, so we'll leave it at that at the lyre, the musical instrument, and then we'll pick up on the other side where you continue on with this. All right, my friend? Friends, thank you for joining us for Digging for Truth. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Bible and Spade is a non-technical quarterly publication published by the Associates for Biblical Research. Written from a scholarly and conservative viewpoint, Bible and Spade supports the inerrancy of the biblical record and is a must-read for both the serious Bible student and anyone asking if they can really trust the Bible. Archaeological evidence, properly interpreted, upholding the history of the Bible. Subscribe today at BibleArchaeology.org.
Digging for Truth is produced and recorded in the studios of Lighthouse TV, positively different television.
Hi, welcome back to Digging for Truth. I'm Henry Smith. I'm here with archaeologist Gary Byers. Okay, Gary, we're talking about Egyptian tombs, and we're talking about this particular tomb at Beni Hassan. So let's pick it up. You were talking about this musical procession and the playing of a lyre, L-Y-R-E.
Yeah.
Let's pick it up from there. Tell people what you see there and what scholars have noted.
Yeah, this, in fact, this is the first image of that musical instrument, or the earliest in Canaan as well as in Egypt. So it's really a kind of a special scene for many. The other guy is holding, he's got a bow in his left hand, in his right hand he's holding what we think is a duckbill axe, known from the Middle Bronze Age in Canaan. And of course he's got a quiver on his shoulder. Then there's a donkey that's got some tools on it. We don't know exactly what they are. It's been suggested a billows, but we just don't know. And then there's an extra spear, 4 ladies holding nothing, a little boy with a spear himself in front of them. The next donkey has 2 kids up on the donkey with, it looks like another bellows. We just don't know, and there's reasons why we're not sure. If it is a bellows, it'd be made out of animal skin, a skin bellows, they call them. And then there's a group of 4 men in front. So we got a rear guard, the ladies, the kids, then 4 men in front. They're carrying 5 weapons between them, including a couple of throw sticks, a couple of spears, and again, a bow. And a close look at the bows suggests they're composite bows. The Egyptians didn't use those. The Canaanites did, the Semites in Canaan. And then we've got what looks like the 2 leaders. Everybody else in the procession is wearing some footwear. The women sort of moccasin booties, we think, made out of skin. The men wearing some sort of a laced sandal, different than the thong sandals that the Egyptians would wear. And the 2 guys that are in front of them have no shoes on. Probably, we assume, out of respect as they approach the ruler. They both have an animal, a wild animal, could have been domesticated, but a wild animal that would be used for sacrifice. And then there's two Egyptians in front of them making the presentation. Now, the inscriptions simply say that this is 37 Amu, which would be people from Syro-Palestine, coming with Mesedet, which is a could be eye black, the eye liner that Egyptians love to use, probably for cosmetic purposes, but also because it helped take away the glare of the sun. So, or it could have actually been galena, which is the material that lead and silver actually are related to. So, whatever it is, it's a pretty valuable commodity, we know, in their world. Now, I just want to point out to you the clothing that everybody's wearing. The Egyptians are wearing their normal linen. I call them kilts, skirts. I don't like to call skirts on guys, so I'm calling them kilts. Others call them skirts. And the men, some of the processional people are wearing kilts, but some of them are wearing full robes. The ladies are wearing full robes. Everybody's robe has a shoulder uncovered, and they all go down to mid-calf. But the big thing about these clothes is they are beautifully colored. Each one, almost everyone, has 3 colors, bichrome colored clothes. And what we don't realize is the cost of being able to have dyed. You'd have to dye every strip of cloth. I don't mean strip, I mean every thread, and then sew it all together to make the kind of things that we have here in this scene. These people are wealthy people.
Okay.
This is an amazing group of people showing up in Egypt.
Okay, so we have people who are distinguished from Egyptians, Semites, from Canaan, in a caravan, traveling to Egypt, standing before the official from the time of Jacob. So let's begin to make some of the biblical connections. Believe it or not, we've only got about 2 minutes left on our episode, Gary. So start to connect it up for people here a little bit. This is very exciting because it tells us the background. It's amazing. But let's make some of those biblical connections.
Well, Jacob's going to show up with his family of 60 to 70 people at roughly the same time. He's going to be down he's going to be in Lower Egypt, up north in the Delta. That's where they're going to show up, where Joseph's got them placed. That's the way they came. These folks came a little different route, but we're looking at the same people from the same kind of people from the same kind of region as we have Jacob and the Israelites. And these folks are well-to-do. They are rich, and that's why I think they're probably artisans with some special technology that most people don't have, things that people in Egypt are willing to pay for. And that's why they're coming is such a big deal, and it centers on the murals of Khnumhotep's tomb. An amazing scene.
It really is. It really is. So here we're not saying this is Jacob and his family, but what we are saying is that this is something that is very similar to what the Bible talks about. Got about a minute left, maybe. The importance of, we're not talking direct evidence, but indirect evidence, but still critically important in terms of where the biblical text places the events in Jacob's life.
Yeah, it's really Bible backgrounds. It just really shows us the world that the patriarchs knew and lived in. Jacob and family, they seem to be a wealthy family too. And we know at least one of them had a really colorful coat, a colorful robe like these guys. And it's an amazing parallel to me. I love this kind of stuff.
All right, Gary, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to give us a preview for the next episode. Who are we going to talk about in the next episode? What tomb are we going to discuss? And give us a little teaser of the biblical connection. 30 seconds.
Okay, we're going to go to Thebes, the tomb of, we say in English, Rekhmire, but it's Rek-mi-Ra. I'll talk about that. Okay. And he's got a scene of people making mud bricks under slavery conditions in Egypt. You ever heard of that before?
Well, I think I have, and I think our audience has as well. And hopefully that'll be out a powerful episode just like this one. Gary, thanks for coming on the show. It's always a joy to see you and our long-term friendship and relationship at ABR. Thanks for all you do.
Thanks, my brother.
All right, friends, thank you for joining us for Digging for Truth. We hope you enjoyed this episode about just this one tomb that connects to the Bible in Egypt. And we hope you join us for the next episode with Dr. Byers as we explore another important tomb from that period.